This is a story where a raving mad husband meets his match. So sit tight, grab your chin chin, and let's dive right into the story. Some time ago, around the year before fuel hit 800 naira per liter, love was very sweet in a small flat somewhere in Port Harcourt. It was the kind of love that made single people hold their chest and say, God, if I'm a lion, let me roar freely. The kind that filled Instagram with soft captions like, my peace in human form. That's how Sandra and Kelvin started. Sandra, a sweet, soft-spoken IT girl who didn't like loud colors or loud people. The type that didn't talk much, but when she smiled, asanwa. She worked remotely, coded during the day, and sent long prayers to her man at night. Her friends used to say, Sandra, you reach your turn, you turn this wife material into something else. Oh. This your yardstick is immeasurable. Oh. But she didn't mind. She liked soft life and soft love, a proper finished woman. Then there was Kelvin, tall, brown-skinned, with a smile that could confuse anybody. An oil and gas admin officer with steady salary and soft packaging. Not too rich, not poor at all. Just the right mix of God when and this one get better bright future. He was the perfect boyfriend. He used to cook for her when she came over, helped her clean her house when he visited, bought her flowers. Real ones though, not plastic. The proposal was romantic. There were rose petals and ring inside an ice cream cup. Her favorite song playing in the background. The way he knelt down and said, Sandra, my love, will you complete me? Her brain didn't even finish processing before she screamed, yes, a million times yes. The wedding was small but beautiful. Family, friends, one gospel singer that sounded like Alicia Keys. Everything was perfect. Then they started living as husband and wife. And the first 2 months of their marriage was heaven on earth. Sandra would wake up early, prepare breakfast, kneel down and serve him tea and toasted bread like a small madam. Kelvin would kiss her forehead and say, I don't know what I did to deserve you. They were always laughing, watching movies together, taking silly selfies in the kitchen. Sandra even started giving married people advice on WhatsApp. She was the advocate for marry your best friend. But then it started. Trinkles of anger and shouting here and there. One evening, she laughed too loudly at something on her phone and Kelvin snapped out of jealousy. What's funny? Are you chatting with someone? She laughed and said, babe, it's just a meme now. He hissed, stood up, slammed the door right in front of her. Sandra was confused and taken aback. What is going on? But she brushed it off. Maybe it's work stress, she said. Then another day, he complained that her jollof rice tasted burnt. After he had eaten 2 plates, so, you're getting too comfortable, he said. Don't forget I married you because you used to do everything so perfectly. Sandra smiled nervously and said, babe, now the same way I've been take the cook I'm saying so. I was just on a call with my brother. That's why I forgot and it got burnt a little. On hearing this, he dropped the spoon with a loud bang, stood up and walked out. Then one Saturday, they were supposed to attend the wedding, so Sandra wore a fitted wine dress. She came out from the room looking like $1,000,000. How do I look? She asked. Kelvin looked at her, frowned and said, so this is what you wear to go outside, eh? For people to see your shape, Abby? Sandra was confused. But you picked this dress for me last week, Kelvin. Yes, I said I liked it. I didn't say you should wear it and go and show the world your body. And just like that, the wedding was cancelled. Sandra stayed at home in tears. And that night, Kelvin slept with anger, facing the other way. He started giving her attitude and silent treatments for the smallest things. But something higher was brewing, but Sandra didn't realize it yet. One day, they were watching a movie and it got to a romantic scene where the male character was massaging his wife's feet. And jokingly, Sandra giggled and said, "You used to do that for me, oh. What happened now, baby?" Kelvin shot her a very cold look and said, "Maybe I stopped because you talk and complain too much." Sandra raised one eyebrow in confusion. "Ha, you are joking, right?" He started fuming. "No. Do I look like a comedian to you? You're asking me stupid questions. This is what I mean when I say you talk too much these days." "Wait, for real, Calvin, what is really the issue? Do you have a problem with me? You shut me off at any given chance these days. What's up?" "Just shut up, Sandra." Sandra was seriously getting frustrated at this point because she couldn't understand where the anger was coming from. She then opened her mouth, but before any other thing would come out of it, that why? The first slap landed with the right amount of pressure and accuracy, just enough to send her into a frozen shock. Sandra was so shocked that she couldn't even cry. She just stared into the empty space with her eyes and mouth wide open. And then, almost immediately, Kelvin's eyes widened, like he too couldn't believe he did something like that. "Babe, oh my God, I didn't mean to. I swear I'm just stressed. Work has been so crazy. I wasn't thinking right. I am so sorry, babe." Sandra still didn't say anything. Kelvin dropped to his knees, hugging her legs and crying like a baby. Real tears flowed from this narcissist's eyes. He begged like David in the book of Psalms. The next thing he did was to buy KFC the next day with a small handwritten apology note that said, "I will never touch you again. I promise. I am so sorry. It was the devil's handwork." He sounded so genuine and apologetic. And Sandra forgave. The next morning, she called her best friend Anita, the only person she could talk to without being judged. She scheduled a lunch date with her. Anita was her girl from university days, the kind of friend that would help you write your CV, drag you to midweek service, and still threaten to slap your ex if he messed up. She worked in HR, wore luxury suits, and talked with so much confidence as if she owned Port Harcourt. So, they met up at a cafe that afternoon. Sandra wore sunglasses to hide her swollen cheeks. Anita noticed, but she didn't comment immediately. She waited and sipped her wine. Then she asked, "So, Sandra, why exactly did you call me out here during work hours?" Sandra sighed and whispered, "He slapped me yesterday." Ah. Anita stared at her quietly and asked, "Are you joking?" Sandra shook her head slowly and said, "It was a mistake." He apologized immediately and cried afterwards. He said work was stressing him. Ah! Anita dropped her drink and cut her off sharply. "Sandra, come on. You know better. It is always a mistake until one day you land inside hospital, or he would use you as obituary flyer. Use your brain, girl. You're better than this." Sandra looked down and muttered as if she was trying to convince herself as well. "He promised not to do it again." Anita hissed like someone fighting a bus conductor. "Jeez, that's what they always say. Until one morning, your picture go dey newspaper with caption, 'Gone too soon.' My friend, wake up." Sandra didn't reply. She just sipped her Chapman slowly while thinking deeply about the mess she has entered into. If you saw Sandra outside, you would think she was one of those women that fell straight from heaven into marriage. Her good morning, sir, could melt a landlord's anger. And every Sunday, she sat at the third row in Living Fire Chapel, the married women's section, clutching her Bible like her womb depended on it. She looked like someone who had never raised her voice in life. Inside her house, her husband did not only raise his voice, so he raised his hands and sometimes his legs too. The beatings weren't every day. Kelvin had strategy and he was smart. He would space it out like salary, once a week, maximum twice. One time he slapped her because she laughed at a TikTok video while he was making a business call. There was even one day he beat her because his team, Arsenal, lost 3-0 and she came to collect money for house upkeep. You, this girl, you are a jinx. The moment you entered this parlor, Saka missed that penalty and you have the guts to still ask me for money. Sandra blinked. But I only came to speak to you about our home. I didn't do anything to jinx the match and you know it. You even, that why he slapped her. You even have the guts to talk back at me. He didn't end there. He kicked and beat her up that day. And after each beating, Kelvin would cry. That is the most annoying part. He would shed crocodile tears like a fool. He would kneel down and begin to massage her feet like a first aid officer. Babe, I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. I swear I need help. I'm working on myself, but I need help. Sandra was getting tired of this back and forth. But she still endured because she still cherished her marriage. Then came the vigil. It was a Friday night and the moon was out, but there was no electricity. So Sandra walked to the gates with the kind of speed you use when you don't want people to ask questions. She tied her scarf tightly. Her face was powdered and covered with makeup. When she got to the church, her usual row was full, so she went to the back and knelt beside Mama Stella, her neighbor, a pepper-mouthed woman in her early 60s who looked like her spirit still knew how to fight street war. Mama Stella's tongue was hot. She didn't pray like normal people. She chanted fire for fire. Every demon disguising as a husband, be exposed, be disgraced, be exposed, be disgraced. Every spirit of slap, die by fire, collapse by thunder, disappear by accident. People around shouted amen. But Sandra didn't say a word. She just kept her head down like a borrowed goat at naming ceremony. Then Mama Stella exploded again. Every hand raised against women in marriage, let those hands receive holy paralysis. May they wake up and be unable to scratch their nyash again. Fire, fire. And some women screamed a very loud amen. But Sandra just pressed her lips together and her knuckles tightened in anger. Sandra kept hoping that Kelvin would change. But after each apology came a more severe beating. This time around was her phone. Sandra never had secrets and Kelvin had never asked questions. But one afternoon, while she was bathing, he picked up her phone and scrolled. And when she came out, she saw him sitting at the edge of the bed like an FBI, phone in one hand, face like exam results. Who is Abel? He asked. She wiped her face and answered, my cousin from Abuja. Why is he sending you 10,000 naira? For what? Sandra chuckled lightly. Well, I was sick 2 weeks ago and he asked. He just sent me small something for drugs. He does it sometimes. He dropped the phone gently like it had insulted him. So I am not enough again. You now collect money from men outside. Sandra paused. It's not like that now, baby. I didn't even ask him for it though. Plus, he's my brother now. Kelvin didn't shout. He just took the phone and imputed his own fingerprints and said, Uh-huh. So that I can go through it anytime I deem fit. So that you will not be out there embarrassing me, collecting money from men as if I don't give you money. Kelvin continued maltreating Sandra like this. She never had peace in her own home. Later that weekend, Anita came over. Her visit wasn't planned and Sandra didn't expect her. Sandra opened the door that day wearing a hoodie in a very hot weather. "Are you okay?" Anita asked immediately. Sandra nodded. Yes, I'm fine. I'm just tired." Anita entered and looked around. Then she sat down. "Where is he?" "He's out." She took off her shades and said, "Sandra, don't lie. That bruise on your face and the way you are walking. Talk to me. What is it? Is he still beating you?" Sandra sat down, then looked away and said, "I'm handling it." Anita scoffed. "See, babe, if you no teach that man lesson, one day you go use your hand collect obituary. I'm not even joking." Sandra looked up slowly and said, "It's not that bad." "It is bad," Anita snapped. "You are a whole human being, his wife, not a punching bag. This your quietness, is not peace you are vying for. Let me just tell you, it is oppression you are enduring. And it is not for your own good." Sandra blinked slowly and then said, "He's changing. He said he's trying." Anita stood up, picked her bag in anger and shook her head. "See, next time he touches you, I am calling your brothers. Trust me." And then she left. Sandra stood there, watching her friend's car reverse and drive off. She touched her cheeks. They were still sore and warm. By Saturday morning, things seemed like they were returning to normal. Kelvin was in a good mood. There was no beating that week. He even called her, "Come sit with me, babe. Let's watch TV together. Let's bond." She came and sat quietly. She laughed when he laughed and nodded when he made dry jokes. He rested his head on her laps and said, "I don't know what I would do without you." She looked at him and smiled softly without saying a word. The thing is, something in Sandra has started to shift. She was calm, unusually calm, like a person starting to count backward from 1000 while holding a grenade. But Kelvin, in all his loud foolishness, did not notice. The problem was that he didn't know that quiet women don't usually announce the moments they snap. And because Sandra still answered, "Yes, baby," and served him food while kneeling down, even with bandaged fingers and tired eyes, he assumed she was still that same woman who used to blush when he sent her "I miss you" on WhatsApp. But the marriage had turned sweet "I miss you" into "Are you stupid?" And at this point, Sandra has started counting. One night, a very hot night, not just regular NEPA kind of heat though, but the kind of heat that made even the ceiling fan feel useless. Mosquitoes were singing Christmas carols near Sandra's ears, but she didn't have strength to fight them. She just lay still on the bed, with her body still sore and her mind spinning and calculating. Kelvin was in the sitting room, watching highlights of a Premier League he had already watched twice. He was laughing loudly, slapping his thighs as if he had shares in Arsenal. Sandra turned on her side and sighed. She had cleaned the house that day, washed clothes, cooked 2 separate soups, egusi and okra. Her back ached. Her body was crying for sleep. And just as her eyelids began to close, she heard the sound of the TV reduce. Then came the footsteps. It was Kelvin. He entered the bedroom shirtless, with his chest out like inflated tire. He stood by the door and smiled. "So you just been one sleep like that? No touch, nothing?" Sandra sat up slowly. "I'm really tired, Kelvin. Today has been really long." "And you think my own day has been short?" "I'm stressed too, but I see the man up. You go just lie down like log of wood." She turned her face away and said, "Please, Not tonight. Not tonight, he mimicked with a hiss. See this woman, oh. So because I marry you now, I no fit even touch my wife again? Sandra didn't answer. She just adjusted her pillow and lay down still. And that silence, that simple act of not replying, it triggered Kelvin more than an insult. You are becoming proud though. See Sandra, small marriage you don't dey act like first lady. You dey forget say I pay bride price, eh? I own this body. He moved closer and she shrank back. Kelvin, please don't touch me. The slap landed like thunder. Bah! She didn't even see it coming. Her face turned red and her ear rang like Nokia touch. Before she could recover, he pushed her by the shoulder. Who are you interrupting? I dey talk, you dey interrupt me. You dey craze? Sandra staggered back, holding her face. But Kelvin wasn't done. He kept ranting and shouting. Nonsense woman. All these church girls forming holy. If I cheat now, you will start fasting and praying. Meanwhile, you are the one that is rationing me like fuel during fuel subsidy. Don't you see your mates? You think they deny their husbands? This your forming, eh? It will end in tears. Then, as if demons let him loose, he grabbed her by the arm, and as he raised his other hand to slap her, she grabbed it. Caught him in the air, clean, like Cristiano Ronaldo catching pass with chest. Kevin's eyes widened like tolo. Eh? Kelvin, no try him again, Sandra said calmly, like she was reading a Bible verse. Kelvin tried to pull his hand back, but she twisted it, eh? Ah! He cried, bending his knees in pain. Then she swept his leg, and before he knew it, his bum landed on the kitchen tiles with a loud bah. He tried to get up, but Sandra pounced on him. Ta, toy, ta, ta. She slapped him back to back. She then placed one knee to his belly and lowered and beat his shoulder so hard that he small stars. Yay! He screamed like a goat going for slaughter on barbecue day. Jesus! Sandra, leave me, oh! Leave me! I'm sorry! I'm sorry, oh! Oh, so you sabi beg. So because I dey keep you quiet since, you think say I be mumu abi? You dey slap person wey go training for backyard since 1998. Neighbors started hearing noise. One shouted from the corridor, "What is happening in flat 21? Oh?" Another shouted back, "Hey God, it's like Kelvin is beating Sandra again, oh." But before they could rush in, they heard shouts like, "Jesus! Sandra, leave my leg! Ah, she's choking me, oh, my neck, oh! Neighbors, save me before she kills me." By the time they kicked the door open, what they saw shocked even the devil. Kelvin was on the floor. His clothes were half torn and his face was swollen like puff left inside oil for too long. One nostril was bleeding. His mouth was bent sideways. And then Sandra was on top of him like a WWE champion. She was sweating and breathing hard. And she didn't look like she had exhausted the anger energy she felt inside. So when the neighbors came, they were still shocked on seeing Sandra beating Kelvin like a baby. They tried to drag her out, but before she could come out, she gave Kelvin another resounding slap, trying to exhaust the anger she felt. And after that, she stood up slowly, adjusted her clothes, and went inside. Kelvin couldn't talk at this point. In fact, he almost passed away. Two hefty men was what it took to help him up, because he couldn't walk well again. He was limping like someone who got slapped by a ghost. They rushed him to the car. One person was pressing his nose with a handkerchief to control the bleeding. As they drove off, One child in the compound looked up and asked his mother, "Mommy, why is that man's nose bent?" And the mother replied without even thinking, "Because he thinks women who kneel down to serve food cannot stand up to serve justice." That night, the whole compound was quiet. Everyone was on the compound WhatsApp group typing. "So Sandra beat Kelvin. Oh. Hey, she beat him almost to stupor. Chey, shebi I talk say that woman no normal." Another one said, "Abeg who get the video? Abi una no record am?" Someone else added, "Wahala be like wife wey dey train for backyard." As for Sandra, she simply locked her door after them and slept better than she had ever done in months. In the hospital, Kelvin lay on the bed. His eyes were swollen. One of his legs was tied up like a bag of yam, and he was still taking drip on top of it. His back ached, his ribs burned, and his neck had signed out completely, stiff like a broomstick. Kelvin had no words, only thoughts and pain. The type of pain that makes a man reflect on his life choices. Like, who sent me? He was still in shock and his BP was rising. He would never have guessed in a million years that Sandra could do what she did last night. The nurse walked in, a young girl with big glasses and small voice. "Good afternoon, sir," she said gently, adjusting the drip stand. "How do you feel?" Kelvin looked up slowly. His lips barely moved. Is it the leg that's broken or everything is broken?" The nurse held back a chuckle and said, "Sir, the doctor said you'll be fine. You just have a small dislocation and some internal shock. You should be alright in a few days." Kelvin shook his head in shame and then he whispered, "She said she was a peaceful person. Oh, Sandra lied to me." The nurse looked confused. "Who, sir?" "My wife. She used to kneel down and serve me food. But last night, I saw stars. Anyway, never mind." The nurse nodded slowly and excused herself. Not long after, the door opened again. This time around, it was Sandra. She was still calm as ever. She entered like someone bringing communion. She came with a nylon bag that contained a small Lucozade Boost, 2 oranges, and a bunch of bananas. She walked to his bed and casually said, "You are awake. Good." But Kelvin, on seeing her, immediately shifted slowly, as if he was scared she came to kill him this time. "Sandra, please." "How is your leg?" she asked. "Sandra, you beat me." She ignored him and opened the Lucozade gently and handed it to him and said, "Yes, I had to put you in your place. It's not every woman you mess with." They looked away and said, "They said you carried me like a sack of rice. Where did you learn all that from? Are you living a double life? Or I simply do not know the wife I married?" She looked at him and smiled slightly, and then she said, "You know, Calvin, you once told me that I was too quiet, that you wished I could speak up sometimes." Kelvin blinked and said, "But I didn't mean it like this now." She nodded thoughtfully and continued, "But you see, when you've been quiet for too long, sometimes your voice doesn't come out as words. It comes out as action. You disgraced me countless times. You slapped me today, insult me tomorrow, and I took it. I took it like a fool. But what you didn't know was that I kept quiet for a reason. You see, I grew up with 4 stepbrothers that used me to practice wrestling matches. They taught me how to fight and defend myself. But I dropped that part of me years ago because I never wanted my home to be anything but peaceful. But you, in your stupid ego, brought out that devil. I know I could have left, yes, but I didn't. Not because I was stupid, but because I had hope that maybe one day you would remember the woman you married, the one you loved, the one who kept covering your shame. But instead, you tested my patience and my silence. She stood up slowly and turned to leave, and then she paused by the door and said, Kelvin, if you ever raise your hands on me again, I can't promise not to do worse than this, and you know I would. And then she walked out quietly. Kelvin shivered in fear. All he felt was fear and regret. He messed up an opportunity of a peaceful and happy home. And now he has brought out the monster in his wife. Outside, the nurses were whispering, Madam, beat her. Yes, so they said she did it effortlessly. Hey, God of women. I like that though. I'm sure he started it. That serves him right. Well, it has been 2 weeks since the slap and punch showdown that sent Kelvin to the hospital and sent Sandra straight into legend status. Sandra packed her things and left the house. She went to Anita's house and Anita received her with open arms. She was very happy that her friend had received sense. Sandra stopped taking Kelvin's calls and totally ignored his texts. As for Kelvin, he had returned home quietly. He now minded his business, but his spirit had been permanently humbled. His alpha male playlist had turned to dominion and Bethel worship. He no longer shouted. All he could think of was how to win Sandra back. One day, he mustered courage to go and beg her in Anita's house. He bought all the things she liked and took it with him. Anita opened the door and sized him from head to toe. What are you doing here, Kelvin? Please, Anita, all I want is one last chance. If I mess it up this time, you have the right to lock me up. In fact, to do whatever you will with me. Please call Sandra for me, Biko. Anita then grudgingly called Sandra. Sandra came out and stood there with her hands akimbo. Looking away, she said, Talk. So Kelvin started. I know I messed up. I know I don't deserve you. But I've changed. Sandra laughed. She laughed so hard and she said, You have changed because my elbow rearranged your jaw or because you understand the meaning of respect now? Both. I spoke with Pastor Ray. I even joined Men of Integrity group. I've not raised my voice since, Sandra. I'm sorry. Sorry can't cure all these bruises, Kelvin. You messed up my emotions. You gave me bruises both physically and emotionally. So sorry can't cut it. With that, she walked back inside the house, banging the door right in his face. The next Saturday, Kelvin decided to call a meeting. His family was there, Sandra was there, her own family was there. Their pastor was also invited. Chairs were arranged in the parlor like it was a community meeting. Kelvin stood up and said, I just want to say it in front of everybody that I was wrong. I was abusive. I hit my wife, insulted her, disrespected her, and I am ashamed. There was a long silence, but he continued, I also want to say this. I have agreed to sign any arrangement she wants, any terms, any conditions. I just want my wife back. And my padizo, that was how the agreement was born. Typed, printed, signed and stamped. Any future abuse whatsoever, verbal, physical or psychological, equals automatic exit with anything she's entitled to. No explanation, no pleading. And everyone was happy. The pastor said, "This is what repentance looks like." But you see, Sandra didn't stay just because of that agreement. She stayed because this time she had power. She had options. She was no longer the girl who cried in secret and smiled at choir practices. She was now Sandra, the woman who fought back and won. And Kelvin, oh, Kelvin changed. He started attending marriage classes like it was NYSC training. He would text Sandra in the middle of the day just to say, "Have you eaten?" And "I am grateful for you." And one day, when they were in the kitchen cooking, he squeezed her hand and said, "Thank you for not leaving me. Thank you for your patience and for teaching me, even if the lesson came with uppercuts." Sandra laughed and they hugged. The end. Moral lesson. As usual, I'm going to drop my own moral lessons, but feel free to tell me what you feel and what you think about this story in the comments below. Never confuse quietness for weakness. There are people who prefer peace, yes, not because they can't fight, but because they have fought before and they know the cost. But if you push them too far, they won't raise their voices, they will raise their standard. And by the time they finish with you, you will end up in bandage. And if you're in an abusive relationship, I'm not in a place to advise you, but I would say don't stay there in silence. Don't stay there in silence. You have options. Okay? And with that, we have come to the end of today's story. As usual, I want to thank all my paddies for watching my videos till the very end. You are the real MVP paddy. Please don't click out without subscribing or liking this video at least. Please support me by subscribing and sharing and liking this video. Thank you all so much. And until next time, remember, don't let anyone dim your shine. Ngwanu, bye.